dear brothers and sisters. It gives me great joy to be here in Singapore and to talk about meditation for a happier heart. You know, we all know about our hearts, the heart that pumps blood through our system so that we can all live. What we want to talk about is not the physical heart, but our spiritual heart. The heart which is at the core of our being, the heart which is our consciousness, the heart which gives us life. And this spiritual heart is what most of us don't think about. You know, when we look at life, we relate to the heart as being a source which gives us happiness. And many times we all feel that if our heart is in good shape, then we would be happy. And happiness to each and every one of us comes through various directions. Some of us feel happy when we are physically fit, when the body is working very well, whether there's no pain in the body, there's no illness, there's no disease. Other people feel happy when they accumulate wealth. The more wealth they accumulate, the happier they get. While there are others who feel happy if their relationships are well, if their dealings with others are well, if when they meet someone, their conversations are joyous. And most of us feel happy because that's how we are reacting to the environment in which we live. And as we start to look at true happiness and look at the sources from where we think we are getting happiness, we find that all of those sources are of outside of us. They're in the environment in which we live. And many of us, since we relate to the physical body as being a real self, feel that the physical state of the body might be what affects our being. But saints and mystics over the years have been telling us that this body is temporary. This body is there with us for a few years, could be 50, 60, 80 or 100 years. That one day this body is going to deteriorate. One day physically we're all going to die. Now, is that the end of our existence? Or is there something beyond? And as we start to ponder on that question, we find that as you look at someone who's physically died, that nothing has changed in the body. You know, if the person were, let's say, 5 feet 8 inches tall, they remain 5 feet 8 inches in length. If they looked a certain way, they looked exactly the same way. Their limbs are still intact and nothing in the body has changed. What has changed is that body now can neither see, neither can it talk, neither can it walk, neither there is any activity in that body. So what really has happened in that physical body that we say that the person is dead? As you start to look at the question, and you realize that there must be a force behind the body, there must be some power behind the body which is not there anymore. And that source which gives life to the body is what is called the soul or our spirit or our Atma. And saints and mystics have been talking about finding true happiness by being able to find health of that spirit, of that soul. And so when many saints talk about the heart, they're not talking about the physical heart, they're talking about the spirit, the soul that gives life to this body. And Sant Singh Ji Maharaj would often say, he would say that on spiritual health depends the health of the body and the mind. Many of us are trying to seek happiness in the activities of the world outside. We're seeking happiness through means that would seem like if we feel that the body needs to be fine, that if physically we are well, we'll be happy. If we feel finances would help us, if the finances are good, we'll be happy. So we're seeking happiness in the activities of the world outside. But if on the inside we've not healed, if on the inside we're not happy, then nothing is going to keep us happy perpetually. We do have moments of happiness, but then we find that sadness comes in our life. And so if you look at life, life is like a pendulum which is swinging from states of joy to states of sorrow. And for most of us, it looks like it's stuck more in the state of sorrow than in the state of joy. So how does one become one who is going to be staying in the state of happiness more and more and more? Guru Arjan Dev Ji Maharaj said, "Sab kich ghar mein, bahar nahi, bahar tole so bharam bulai." He's saying, everything that you want to find, all the happiness, all the joy, all the treasures of divinity are within yourself. And those who are searching for happiness, for joy, for peace on the outside are going to be focused in the world of illusion. Saints and mystics talk about the real worlds, the conscious worlds, all being within ourselves. And as we try to connect with that arena, we find that all of our traditions talk about stillness, stilling the body and stilling the mind, to be able to home into the treasures which are within each and every one of us. And meditation is nothing more than taking our attention away from the world outside and putting it within ourselves. As we take our attention, which is the outer expression of our soul, which is going out through our senses, most of us operate through the five senses: the sense of sight, which is the predominant sense, then the sense of hearing, then the sense of smell, taste and touch. And scientists and researchers have been researching on we as human beings in our lives. They tell us about 83% of our activities are based on a sense of sight. That's the predominant sense, and this is why we all feel like, I saw this, it has to be true. I saw it with my own eyes, so it cannot be wrong. The next dominant sense is a sense of hearing. About 14% of our activities are happening because of our sense of hearing. And only 3% of our activities happen through our other senses, the sense of smell, taste and touch. And as we start to look at what are these senses bringing us, our sight can only see that what is made of matter. And whatever is made of matter can be experienced through these physical eyes. Our sense of hearing can only hear frequencies in a certain level. There are other animals whose frequencies might be above us or below us. And it's very interesting that we as human beings, who have so much research, who have so much things that are available to us to decipher many things in life, are unable to even decipher how the weather would be. A few years ago, when the tsunami hit, it is said that 3 days before the tsunami hit, that the elephants of that area just started going up from the area where they were, up in the hills, because they realized through their feelings of the earth that something was going to happen. And we as human beings who have all these big computers and equipment to decipher what would happen could not find out exactly what might be happening, and so had a lot of devastation. So we all are limited in whatever senses we have. The sounds that we hear are limited. The sights that we hear are limited to certain levels. The smells that we smell are limited. We only have a few fragrances that we smell. The tastes that we have are also limited. We have salt and we have sweet and we have sour. and there's one or two more kind of taste buds, and the feelings of touch have to be physically. If someone touches us, we can feel this is soft, this is hard, this is smooth, and this is rough. And so we're limited through our senses. And all of these senses are interacting with the world outside. Now, wherever one focuses one's attention, that's what one becomes. And so as our attention is into this physical world, that's the input that comes to us. Now, this world is a reflection of the spiritual worlds. And so saints and mystics have been talking about, for us to be perpetually happy, for us to attain the state of happiness, which will last and last and last, our attention needs to be in an arena which is calm and peaceful. When we look at the world outside, we find there's a lot of turmoil. We all, as human beings, think that we're different. We speak different languages, we are brought up in different countries, we have different cultures, and our faiths are different. And so we all feel we're different. But what is very interesting is that a few years ago, a genome project was done, and they were mapping the genes of various human beings from all over the world. And what is very interesting is the result that they came out with. One group came out with a result that more than 99% of the genes of each and every human being were one and the same. More than 99%. What was different was only less than 1%. And that accounted for our length, our weight, the shape, our features, the color of our skin. And we all just focus on the outside, not realizing that on the inside, we are one and the same. Sant Rajinder Singh Ji Maharaj very beautifully put it. He says, "Gale laga lo har insaan ko, ye apna hai." Gale laga lo har insaan ko, ye apna hai. Chalo to raah guzaron mein baante hue pyar. He's saying, embrace everyone as your own and walk through life distributing the love of God. Now, generally, we as human beings think that our family is our physical family. And we try to do our very best for our physical family. And we have relationships who we are connected to, uncles and aunts and cousins and physical relationships. And then beyond that, we think that everyone is different. Everyone is someone other. And so if we look at life, we relate more to our family and to our friend circle. And that's where our attention goes. And when all individuals are just focused on their own and their own and their own, as we interact, difficulties do come in. If we get to a realization that we're all one and the same, which even the scientists today are telling us, then we would be able to lead a life in which love from us will go to everyone, which care from us will go to everyone. And many times we feel this is a big world. If one person changes, what difference will it make? But I'd like to leave you with a story. And this story is about a person who was walking on the beach. And as this person is walking on the beach, far away he sees someone who's sitting on the shore and is picking something and throwing in the water. So when he sees this person throwing things in the water, he seems intrigued as to what is this person doing. He starts to walk towards them. As he gets closer and closer and closer, as he get into a range where he felt that if he spoke something the person would hear, he asked him, "What are you doing?" And the person who was throwing things said, "Well, I'm taking this starfish and throwing it into the water." And the first person said, "What difference does it make? There are thousands of starfish which are on the shore." And the person kept on throwing it, said, "Oh, it made a difference to this one." And so each and every one of us can make a difference. If we are peaceful ourselves, if we're happy ourselves, if we're calm ourselves, we'll make sure that the environment gets happier and calm and peaceful. And so meditation is a means by which we can achieve that state. It's a means by which our heart can be happy in which our soul can be happy. Because meditation is a means by which we connect with what is called the divine power of the Creator, the divine power of light and sound which emanated from the Creator. That divine power which brought all creation into being. And when we look towards science, the science is also talking about this creation coming with a big bang, where all of a sudden there was light, there was sound, and the world started to be creation as we know today. Many regions of existence came into being. And so as we look at ourselves today, as we as human beings who are living in this world, look at ourselves today, we find that it's not only us, but there are all kinds of living forms. There are many animals, many birds, many fish, many reptiles, many insects. In the East, there's this belief of 84 lakh Jia Zone, which means like there are 8.4 million species. And we're all coexisting here. And what is giving us life is a part of the divine, which is our soul. And as that soul is in this human body is alive. So as we live at this state of being in the human body, what helps us is if we can connect with our soul. Our soul, which is a part of the Creator, our soul, which is separated from the Creator, is like kind of patch. It's just like if a leaf gets away from the tree, then it dries out and it withers. Okay? And it's just like when a drop of water gets away from the ocean, then it's separated and it's away. And so similarly, our real self, our soul, which is a part of the Creator, is separated from the Creator. And in the human body, all the faculties that are required for us to make that connection have been provided. The human body has been called the roof and crown of all creation. Because in this human existence, we have what is called the characteristic of vivek. Vivek means we can discriminate, we can find a difference between right and wrong, what is truth and what is untruth. And so we've been given that capability. Now, since we've been given that capability, we need to use it. If we have the capability and don't use it, then this life will pass by. 50, 60, 80 or 100 years is not a long time. When you think of eons and eons since which our soul has been separated from the Creator. So we need to make use of this opportunity of being in the human body. And this is why saints and mystics talk about this existence as being a golden opportunity. This human body has been called the temple of the Creator. This is where the Creator resides. The Creator is not living up in the sky. And for us to know the divine, we don't have to get on an airplane or one of these outer space vehicles to be able to get into outer space to know God or to know the Creator. Each and every one of us can be with the divine power which is within ourselves. And as we connect with it, what happens is there's the cleanliness of our spirit or our soul. Our situation is like that of a mirror. When there's a mirror and if it's fogged, then you can't see anything. But when the fog is removed, then you can see a clear reflection of yourself. It's also an example that has been given is like if you look at some murky water, then you don't see a reflection of yourself. But when the mud settles down and there's clarity, then you are able to see your own reflection. So right now, on our soul, we have layers and layers of mind, matter, and illusion. And as these have covered our soul, we are unable to experience of ourselves. We just live on the periphery of our being. We don't get deep in to realize who we really are because we're living on the periphery. Because everything is covered, and as long as it's covered, we're not going to be able to experience ourselves as we are. So meditation is a process by which we peel these layers off one by one. And as these layers of mind, matter, and illusions are peeled from our soul, we can home into our true reality. And as we get to our true being, we realize that we are loving, we're caring, we are full of compassion, and it is then that these true characteristics of a being start to come out. Sant Singh Ji Maharaj would often talk about ek bano, nek bano. He would say, we need to be one with the Creator. And as we get one with the Creator, as we experience ourselves, as we experience the divine characteristics within ourselves, then we'll become ethical. We'll be living a life of love. We'll be helpful to everyone else. We'll lead a life of selfless service. We lead a compassionate life. We lead a truthful life. We lead a life of non-violence. And we live a life of humility. It's the ego in our being which is creating difficulties for us, because the ego is making us be in a state of duality. As soon as we think of ourselves as being different than someone else, there's duality. And as soon as there's duality, there's no question of being able to be one. And so the key is to get over that state. The key is to recognize the oneness that we have within ourselves. Because as we invert, as we meditate, as our attention gets away from the world outside, and as we connect with the divine power within ourselves, then we are able to realize that if we can experience the divine light of God, of the Creator within ourselves, then so can everyone else. And we realize we are not different than someone else, we are all one and the same. And as we realize that we are all one and the same, then automatically we come close to them. Like if you look at the human body, the arms are connected and the legs are connected. So as a human body, you're not going to bring pain to your arm or your leg or your body because you feel this is you. And so as we start to recognize that each and every being is connected to us, then we find that there's more love in our life, there's more compassion, there's peace, and there's joy. And that state happens when we first recognize the divinity within ourselves, the divine light and sound within ourselves. And so, as we meditate, we find that a transformation automatically happens. We find that as the third principle of physics, for every action there's a reaction, we recognize that for every thought that we'll have, every word that we'll speak, and every deed that we'll do, we'll have reactions. And what is very interesting is that as one starts to understand that, then anger converts into forgiveness, because we realize that if we're angry at someone, that our anger is going to bring anger back to us. So instead of that, we become more compassionate, we become more caring, we become more loving, and we find that life is getting more harmonious around us. There's a very interesting example coming from the last century. This is from the life of a doctor who was at John Hopkins University or hospitals. It's one of the foremost hospitals in America. And this is coming from towards the end of the 1900s or the 1800s to 1900s. And it is said that there was a young man in a small town, and as he was growing, he was from a very poor family. And so to make ends meet, he would go and he would sell things door to door to be able to raise some money. And so one day, as he's going to sell things, he was unable to sell too much, and so he didn't have any money to eat. And as he's selling, it's very hot, he got very hungry, and he was thinking, what should I do? So he thought, okay, the next door I go, when I knock, I'll ask them if they can give me a meal to eat. But those were times when people would go door to door to be able to sell things. And so he knocks at the door at the house that he went to, and the door is opened by a young girl. Now when he looked at the young girl, he thought, I can't ask her for a meal, this is like a child. And so they said, could I please have a glass of water? The young girl went in, and instead of bringing a glass of water, she brought a glass of milk for him because she thought that he is hungry. Or from the looks of him, she felt that he needs some more nourishment. So she gave him a glass of milk. So he drank the glass of milk, and then he asked her, how much should I pay you for this? And she said, no, my mom told me that if a guest comes to your house, you should offer them whatever would make them better. And so then he left. And he said that many years later, this young girl had become older, and as she's aged, she ran into some physical difficulties. So she's going to doctors in her town, and no one can find out what is wrong with her. The doctor's doing all kinds of tests, but not figuring out what is wrong with her. And so someone told her, you should go to a bigger town, because they have a bigger hospital, they have more research there, and they have a very specialist doctor who's very good at diagnosing things. And so she goes to this hospital, and she gets admitted, and a doctor comes in and checks her. As this doctor is checking her, he to himself recognized who she was, but she could not recognize him because he was a young kid, he had grown older himself. And so, as this incident is talked about, she was in the hospital for many, many days. And the doctor did the very best to find out what's wrong with her and could treat her, and took her many days in the hospital, and she got well. And then when you get well, then you get a bill from the hospital. Now she's very afraid of the bill because she'd been in the hospital for many days. So in the meantime, the billing group is going to make a bill for whatever time in the hospital. They made a bill. So the doctor went to the billing department, got the bill, and scribbled something on it. And she said, okay, now you can give this bill send it to the patient. And so as the bill was brought to the patient, she was very scared. She didn't know how much it would be, and she was thinking all her life savings would be gone. But it was very interesting. When she opened the bill up, she could not believe what was written on the bill. On the bill was written, paid in full by 1 glass of milk. And so, when we do something good, it comes back to us. When we bring joy into the life of someone else, joy comes back into our life too. And so it's that realization that every action has a reaction. When we go to school, we hear it in physics all the time, but we don't think about it, doesn't sink in. So as we meditate and as we recognize the joys within, then we realize that if we give joy to someone else, the joys will come back to us. And this is what many people who had near-death experiences found out. In the last maybe 50 years, there's been a field in which a lot of scientists and medical researchers are researching. We live in an age which is very scientific. We only believe in what science can prove. And science is very interesting. Science puts up a theory, then it sets up an experimentation, then it gets the results, and based on the results it says whether this theory is correct or not. And so science, and as we are growing and we're living in these days, we've all been told that science is what is going to tell us what the truth is. Science changes with time. Even the number of planets has changed. Yeah? So science changes. There was a time when people believed that the earth was flat. If you walk, you'll fall on the other side. But things change, and now they realize that it's not flat. There was a time when people thought that the sun is circling around the earth. And then as we had more instrumentation, we realized, no, it's the earth which circles around the sun. And so science, depending on its instrumentation, is telling us about all kinds of, about gravity, about everything else. So the scientists who are doing research into what life is all about, what is it that makes us tick? A new field came out called near-death experiences. These are people who were either on a surgical table in a hospital, or they were in a physical trauma, they had an accident. all of a sudden they found an existence beyond their physical body. Many people talked about their bodies being on the surgical table, they finding themselves as close to the ceiling, where they could see the doctors and the nurses work frantically on the body. They could hear everything that was being talked about, and then they could see and they could hear everyone else, but no one else could see them or hear them. And they then talked about going to the walls of the operating table. They could see their loved ones waiting in the waiting room, very worried about them. Many talked about then going to many areas beyond. And what is very interesting, when they talked about where they went and what they experienced, it corroborated properly. And then many talked about ending in a region of tremendous light. And many people also said that when they were in that region of tremendous light, it wasn't hot or scorching. Generally, if there's a lot of light, there's a lot of heat. You have this big lamp that puts a lot of heat here. But they talked about this region of tremendous light was very loving and caring. And many of these people talked about having an experience with a being of light. And the being of light, they said, was very loving and caring. And they said they got embraced by the being of light. And they said they had never felt that kind of love in their life. And all of them said they did not want to come back from that arena. That they were so happy there, and they were filled with happiness because being with the being of light was putting them in a state that they'd never experienced before. There were also, many people talked about having a life review, in which they got a 3-dimensional review about the important aspects of their life. So if they had brought in happiness in someone's life, they could feel that happiness that they brought. If they brought pain to someone, then they could feel that pain too. But irrespective of whether they brought happiness to someone or pain to someone, they were all loved by the being of light. And this is why they all said they did not want to come back from that state. But it wasn't the time to go. So all of a sudden they found themselves in the body. And as they were conscious, they started to talk about their experiences. So over 50 years ago, when the first experiences came out, people thought they were crazy. How can this thing happen? But then as more and more doctors started having those experiences with their patients, our first book came out, I think, in the 1970s or late 70s, called Life After Life by Dr. Raymond Moody. He was the first doctor who accounted all of these experiences. And since then, over 200-300 books must be out by people who had these experiences, other people who've done research on them. And a book came out called Transformed by the Light. And through that book, they're saying how by this experience that they had for a few moments, their life changed. Many of them started to go to their places of worship more and more. Many of them started to go into professions which were caring, like the medical profession, like the community services profession, where they cared for all human beings. And many of them started to live lives which are more loving and caring because they realized that at the core of our being is love. That this whole creation is built on love, the love of the Creator, and it's that love in our being that we need to recognize to be happy. Think of the times when you're in love, and there are many young people or people who've aged also who've gone through stages when they're in love. So when you're in love, then everything is beautiful, everything is joyous, everything is happy. And so when we recognize this deep state of love which is within each and every one of us, then we're always happy. We're always in a state of joy. And it's that love between our being and the divine which is what meditation helps us experience. And it's that love of the divine which is impregnated in each and every one of us, which we need to experience. And as we meditate, as we go within, as we get to states of silence, we'll be able to experience that. And as we experience that, then happiness stays with us. Think of the times when you think that you will be in a state where everything is perfect, everything is good. And when everything is good and everything is perfect, you're always happy. It's only when things are contrary to what you expect that you get distraught. If your team wins a championship, you're very happy. And if they lose, then you get distraught, right? If you want to come first in the class, you work hard, you come first, you're very happy. And if you can't come first, then you get distraught. So within us, if we feel that the environment is correct and it's perfect as to what we expect, then things are happy. And this is where, as we go within, we start to understand that principle of not my will, but thy will be done. We start to understand that principle, that our will is limited. We are only aware of this lifetime. We're not aware of any existences which are away from this lifetime. But the divine power, the creative power which created everything, knows the past, knows the present, knows the future. And so as we connect with that power, and as we experience that power, then the wisdom in our being starts to set in. See, we gain a lot of knowledge in this world. We learn about physics and chemistry and maths and history and science and languages and all kinds of things, and we get knowledgeable in those areas. And so knowledge can be gained by learning more about what is in the world outside. And so we in this world feel our IQ gets to be more as we get more knowledgeable. But what is very interesting is that knowledge only helps us understand the outer environment. It's wisdom that we need to get. And wisdom comes from within. Wisdom comes from understanding who we are. Wisdom comes from understanding what is our relationship with the Creator. And that we cannot get through any book. That we cannot get through any talk. That needs to be experienced. So meditation is a process of experiencing for ourselves. It's not that someone tells us something. It's the experience that we have ourselves which solidifies the wisdom that we need to have, which is within ourselves. And as we go within, that wisdom starts to unfold. And as we dig deep into that wisdom, which is embedded within each and every one of us, which is that we are all one and the same, we're a part of the Creator, we have this opportunity to experience ourselves at that level, and then God, the Creator, has given us everything that is needed for us to be able to fulfill the very purpose for which we are here, which is to be happy eternally. And so meditation is a means by which we are able to enter that state. Because as we experience ourselves as we really are, then the reality sets in as to who we are. And as we experience that we are full of love, that love is the cornerstone on which our whole existence is built, then we're happy for all times to come. So I'd like to leave you with a short meditation. It's called SOS meditation. SOS stands for Science of Spirituality, because spirituality has science behind it. In this meditative practice, we can sit as comfortably as we can. No physical pose is required. You can sit on the chairs, you can sit on the sofa, you can sit on the floor. People can even meditate lying down if you're not feeling well. Generally, it's conducive to sleeping, so most people do sit down to meditate. It's a purely spiritual practice. We close our eyes very gently, just like we close them when we go to sleep. Our eyeballs should be straight, focus 8 to 10 inches in front of us. As we close our eyes, each and every one of us is bombarded by thoughts. Thoughts are coming from our mind. Our mind does not want us to be able to realize ourselves. So it's the one that brings difficulties to us through our desires, through our thoughts. And we all have desires of getting this and getting that, and doing this and doing that. And so that puts our attention more in the world outside. That comes from the mind. So the saints and mystics have done a lot of research in the area. They say we need to use the power of the mind to be able to experience the divine. So we do a mental repetition of a peaceful name, of a calming name, of a loving name, of a divine name. And so as we do this repetition, mentally, the power of mind goes into that arena and we then are going to be getting to a state where the thoughts are going to leave us one by one. And right in front of us, as we get to the state where thoughts are leaving us, light will sprout forth. The lights could be of various colors. It could be golden, it could be white, it could be red, blue, green, yellow, orange, some other color. So whatever we experience, let's focus in the middle of it. And we'll find that with time, these lights to us look like stabilized. In the beginning, they're coming and going. And what actually is happening is the light of the divine power, which is within each and every one of us, is there all the time. When we concentrate, we experience the light. When we are distracted, we experience darkness. So with time, as our concentration gets more and more and more, we experience the light to be more and more and more, so it looks like it's stabilizing. And then we'll go beyond the lights. We get to a sky full of stars. We get there, let's focus in the middle of the biggest of the brightest star. It will give way for us to experience then a moon, and by lovingly gazing the moon, we cross that too and get to the inner sun. And by concentrating in the sun, we can experience many, many, many other vistas within. So our job is to still the body and to be able to still the mind by repeating a calm name, a divine name, a loving name, a peaceful name. And as you do that, we'll find that the time that we spent in experiencing the divine light within is not only going to make us happy and calm for the time that we are meditating, but the effect of it stays for long periods later on. So that experience is going to bring happiness and joy for many, many, many hours more. So let us just sit for a few minutes. As you close your eyes, please repeat any name that you feel comfortable with, which is peaceful or calm or a divine name. Your attention should be right in front. I pray to the Creator to help each and every one of us experience the divine power within ourselves and to experience the divine light. May the grace of the three great spiritual masters of the past century, Hazur Baba Sawan Singh Ji Maharaj, Param Sant Kripal Singh Ji Maharaj, and Dayal Purush Darshan Singh Ji Maharaj, be with each and every one of you, and may you be guided to regions of light, to regions of love, and regions of joy within yourselves. I'll be getting out of this meditative state at that time. My best wishes are with each and every one of you.
Please leave off. Please leave off.